Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. We're supposed to wear 80s outfits today, and I didn't bring one, so let me strap my 80s costume on. Later, I'm going to put Goo Goo clusters in this fanny pack. Or is it a belly bag? Who knows? A Goo Goo cluster? Oh, it's a marvelous piece of candy. So if you see me, I'll have Goo Goo clusters later and T-shirts. You want to get that. This session's called VS Code Can Do That. Today, we're going to look at some of the things that you might not know about Visual Studio Code, and this is the Angular edition of this talk, so I've tailored it just for you fine Angular folks here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, before we do that, I'd like to take you back really quickly to 2012. The year is 2012. The #1 song on the radio is a song called Rolling in the Deep by Adele. She didn't write the song, she remade the song. The #1 movie at the box office is a movie called Drive, with that remarkable Canadian Ryan Gosling. Fantastic movie. Yes, give it up for Ryan Gosling. It's okay. Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. Barack Obama is president. Easy, easy, easy. Okay. Everybody relax. And that same year, Microsoft puts out a small press release that nobody reads. And that press release says that they've hired a gentleman named Eric Gamma from IBM, and he set up a new office in Zurich, Switzerland. And that's it. A small blurb, a small press release, and nobody thinks anything about it. Life goes on. Over the next several months and years, Eric and his team in Zurich begin working on developer tooling that's built in a browser, based in a browser. And this is called Project Monaco. And Project Monaco begins to show up in some interesting places, such as the browser developer tools, the embedded CLI in Azure, and eventually becomes Visual Studio Code. Now, I tell you that story because there's something interesting, and as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Eric Gamma is famous for something else prior to Visual Studio Code. Does anybody know what that is? Gang of Four, yes. But he also invented Eclipse. I heard it. The same person who invented Eclipse has also given us VS Code, and that, my friends, is called redemption. All right. Let's get started. You can follow me here on Twitter. I'd appreciate it if you do that. My self-esteem is low, and I would like to maintain more followers than my coworker Asim here. I'd like to thank Microsoft for letting me come out and do this. I do work on the Azure team, and I get to work closely with the Visual Studio Code team. I'd like to think that they like me. I don't know that that's necessarily true, so perhaps that qualifies me to give this presentation. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that my setup here is I have a light theme. And I've heard a lot of comments about dark themes. Todd Motto said once that according to science, light themes are not good for your eyes. If that's the case for you, you can, of course, pick a different theme. It might be interesting to know that the most, scientifically speaking, best theme for your eyes is one called Cobalt 2 from Wes Bos. This is the case because your eyes do best with bright yellow text on a dark blue background. It's easiest on your eyes. Me personally, it's 2018, so we don't let science or facts get in the way of anything that we do. So I'm going to be sticking with my light theme, and you all can go ahead and be wrong with your dark themes. Now, the other thing that I would like to tell you is that there is something that you can do inside of Visual Studio Code called font ligatures. So we're actually going to tweak our font a little bit. Let's open up a file here. I'm going to go through and use some keyboard shortcuts today. I'm going to try to shout out what they are. Don't worry about that. When we get to the end of this presentation, you'll have seen dozens of things. You won't remember any of them. I'm going to give you one URL where you can go and get all of this information later and look at it at your own time. So let's take a look at a file here. I'm just going to pull up. Tell you what, let's look at the artist component here. And here's just a little bit of code, super impressive code, of course, because I wrote it. But we can go over and we can install a font called Code, and this is from GitHub. You can just install this, and then you double-click the font file. You hope to God there's not a virus in there, and then now it's on your machine. And now that you have this font installed, you can use it inside of Visual Studio Code. But it's not just any font. It's a font ligature. So what does that mean? Well, you can come to your user settings here, and you can add in some settings here. Let's go back. Let me pull these out. And actually, I'm going to just copy and paste so we don't have to look at this. Let's go back here. And you can set editor.font family here. And you can just set this to Fira code, like this. And then you can set editor.font ligatures right here. And you're just going to set this to true. And now, when I click Save, you'll notice that my font changes a little bit, and that's not right here. Oh, space there. Thank you so much. Perfect. All right, so now Fira code is working. That's just a font, not that impressive, but check this out. If we come back to the artist component, and let's take a look at something like, if we were to look at this little arrow right here. Now, instead of a double arrow, we have an actual double arrow, an actual fat arrow. So what it does is it takes multiple symbols that we use to specify one symbol, and it makes those into one. So for instance, you could have something like an equals equals, and you get an equals equals. Or even better, equals equals equals, and you get an actual triple equals. Yes, it's okay. You can give it up for the triple equals. It's beautiful. We're just getting started. Okay, wonderful. Another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is Emmet. Now, take it easy. A lot of you are like, Emmet, come on, I know what Emmet is. You said this was going to be all the things I didn't know about VS Code. Well, there's always people in the room that don't know Emmet because we're all at different levels, and that's perfectly fine. But for those of you who do know Emmet, there are some things you may not know that it can do. So let's open up the artist component here. And I'm just going to go to the I'll tell you what, let's do a different one. Let's do player component, HTML. And in here, we can use Emmet to create markup very quickly. So for instance, we could do something like this. And this will give us a Bootstrap navbar. Now, scientifically speaking, you cannot build an application without Bootstrap, so you're going to want to put Bootstrap navbar in your application. Now, once we've done this, we can hit Tab, and this will actually expand out, and then we have tab stops here, and we can go and put home, about, contacts. You get the idea. So you don't need to know all of the Emmet shortcuts or syntax. You just need to know that Visual Studio Code can do this. Now, for those of you who are like, I knew that, okay, easy, check this out. Let's say you've got something simple, like an image, and you are going to add in your image source here. Isn't this nice? You get a picker inside of VS Code. This is why we love VS Code. Let's go up one more, go to the assets and images, and let's do the banner here, this one up top. All right, so now we've got an image in our project, but you don't just want to put an image in your project, you want to specify the width and the height so that the browser can reserve space for your image. Well, how do you know how big this image is? Well, one of the ways is to just click on the image and Visual Studio Code will tell you, or you can just come to the end of the line here, hit space, Command-Shift-P, say update image size, and boom, Visual Studio Code will do it for you. You don't even have to do it yourself. Check that out. Even more interesting, check this out. Let's start over again here. This works for remote images as well. Boom. It can pull in automatically image sizes right off the internet. Very cool. Here's another thing it can do. Math. Legitimate math. We just hit math. Marth is not a thing. How about math? Boom. Right, so you don't need a calculator anymore, and this is all powered by Emmet. So that's Emmet inside of Visual Studio Code. Everybody should know about Emmet because there's a lot of really cool productivity things that you can do with that. Excellent. So let's go ahead and take a look at some more Angular-specific things here. First of all, I want to talk about something called Prettier. Now, Prettier is an extension that you can get from the gallery, the extension gallery, and what it's going to do for you is it's going to automatically format your code. So that as you come in here and you're typing, a lot of times we're like, man, I got this line of code, but I don't know, like maybe it should all be on the same line, and then you're like, nah, I'm going to put the then on the next line, I'm going to tab it out, everybody's doing it differently. You know, you have a crisis, an existential crisis, because you don't know how to format this line of code. Well, what Prettier does is Prettier says, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it for you. So you can just hit Command-Shift-P, format document, and Prettier automatically formats your code. Now, this is remarkable because check out all the things it can do. If you come over to this, tell you what, let's go ahead and save this file. Let's look at a file here, the iTunes service file. Now this file's got a lot of squigglies in it because it's got double quotes. Somebody check this file in with double quotes. Look at where they're breaking the braces here on the next line, and there's no semicolons in this file. Oh my eyeballs. All right, who checked this file in? This is a disaster. Let's check this out. View file history. Oh crap, it was me. All right, so what we can do here is use Prettier to format this file. So what we're going to do here is go Command-Shift-P, format document, and boom, quotes are changed to single quotes, semicolons are put back in, and now all the braces are on the right line. Now what's magical about this is that if everyone on your team is using Prettier, all of your code will be formatted the same. No more arguments about tabs versus spaces, it's spaces. Prettier will take care of that for you. That is the answer. So that's Prettier. Another thing you can do is add a line to your settings file, which will automatically format Prettier on save so that you don't have to select format document every single time. All right, let's take a look at something else that's really cool, and that is John Papa's Angular Essentials Pack. So it's right here. If you don't have this already installed, how many people are actually using Angular Essentials right now? Couple hands go up. Okay, it should be everybody in this room. If you're using Angular and you're using VS Code, you need to be using this. With this, you get snippets, you get TS-lint, you also get, let's go ahead and get rid of this here. Don't save. You also get the, let's go to the artist file, Angular language service. And that will actually compile your templates in the background so that you can get IntelliSense and error checking while you're building your templates. So for instance, here we have a method called keyUp, and we're calling a method called search. And if we put in searches, we get a squiggly. Why do we get a squiggly? Because there is no method called searches in the component file for this component. So you know automatically at design time whether or not your templates are valid. You can also, if we take this back, you can just right-click search, go to definition, and boom. You just jump right to the corresponding definition in your file. So this is a really, really powerful tool for moving between your templates and your code and checking your templates at design time. Another thing VS Code can do is IntelliSense. Now, you probably already knew that. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this without saving. But what you may not know is all the places that it can do IntelliSense. So let's go to package.json, and you'll see here, oh, I'm using Angular 4. Oh, that's messed up. That should be Angular 5.2. Well, we know that from looking at the other packages, but what if we didn't know what the current version of this package was? We wanted to update it. Well, there's different ways we could do this. We could argue about academically whether or not you should be manually changing your package.json file. But if we take this out, check this out. Control space. VS Code goes out to NPM, and it automatically tells you what the latest version of this package is. No more going to NPM to try to figure out what your package versions are. Visual Studio Code will just tell you because it provides IntelliSense inside of package.json files, which is magical. Let's fix this. All right, the other thing that we want to talk about here is debugging. So you can debug your Angular apps in the browser, which you probably do with the Chrome DevTools, but you can also debug them inside of Visual Studio Code. So to do that, you'll come up here, hit the debug, hit the gear, and we'll select Chrome. And by default here, we'll get a launch Chrome against localhost. And what this does is it literally just launches Chrome. Now it's going to port 8080, but we want it to go to port 4200. And I should note that I already have this project running in the background. So we're at port 4200 here. And then the other thing we want to do is add another configuration for Chrome, and it's going to be attach. So we're going to launch Chrome against localhost, and I'm actually going to move this up, because we're going to launch first, like this. We're going to launch and then attach. So let me grab this and move this down a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Whoa! Made it. That was scary. All right, so we're going to launch and then attach. So let's do that. I'm going to save this. So let's go here, and we'll just say launch Chrome against localhost. So we'll do that. And what that will do is actually load a browser window for us. So there it is. And then we're going to come back, and we're going to just attach to Chrome. And this will attach the debugger. There it is right there. So you can see we got both processes running. We got three. I hit it twice. We got three processes running. This is some sort of a new feat here. And then we can add in a breakpoint. So if we go over to so here's our application here. What this does is allows us to search for things inside of the inside of iTunes. So let's look for something. Let's look for, I don't know, what's some great 80s music? Shout it out. Duran Duran. Ooh, how do you spell that? Two Durans. One Duran followed by a second Duran. All right, we'll go to the greatest hits. And then we can play these, and these will actually play inside the browser here and show us an audio visualization. But what we can do is come back over. Let's go to our iTunes file, which we've so lovely formatted and fixed with Prettier here. And if we come down, we can add a breakpoint here on the get tracks, right there. Oops, maybe I'm in the wrong session here. Let's try again. All right, so my breakpoints, let's go ahead and restart. We'll clear our breakpoints. Try again. I tell you what, let me go back to the application and take a look at something. Let's go ahead and detach this. Looks like we're restarting. Demo fails, so awkward. Let's try that again. What do we say, Duran Duran? Duran. And I'm just going to try to play. Oh, now we're breaking perfectly. So now we're good, and we can go in and we can look at the value of album ID or do any other debugging. So you can debug in Chrome, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can also debug inside of Visual Studio Code. And I think you'll find that debugging in the same place where you compose your code is a much better experience. So that's cool. Let's go ahead and clear all our breakpoints here. We'll just go ahead and continue on. And then if we're going to just play this right here, view to a kill, that's a good one. Oh, another demo fail. Okay, this is so awkward. Let me do this. Oh, so awkward. Let's go. Does anybody, can you just shout it out if you see it?
Oh, I see it.
You see it?
Yes. Constructor there?
Where?
You're using the wrong property.
Can you just fix it for me?
Really?
Yeah, just fix it for me. Oh, what a silly and simple mistake I have made. Can you go ahead and save it too? I mean, since you're in there.
Okay.
All right, let's go back and see if we're working now. Two Durans. Yep, we're still breaking. Let's go back. All right. That is called Visual Studio Code Live Share, and that's in preview. You can sign up for early access, and it supports more than one person at one time. Everybody give Brian Clark here in the front row a round of applause for helping me out with that. That is super exciting stuff, so that's coming soon. No more paired debugging sessions over Skype. That is awesome. All right. Let's talk about Docker for a second. Now, if I say Docker and your eyes roll back in your head and a little bit of drool comes out the side of your mouth, it's okay. I feel that way too, right? Like the next person that says Docker, come on, please. I think we should have a moratorium on words like Docker, Kubernetes, blockchain. We shouldn't be allowed to say those things anymore. If you don't understand what Docker is, just know that it's like an exe for your server application. It's a package, and you put all your dependencies in there, and you put it up on the server, and it just works. So in this case, for this project, we want to Dockerize this thing. Well, how do we do that? Well, we have the Docker extension installed for Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to open this sidebar so you can see this thing work here. So we're just going to do Command-Shift-P, and we're going to say Docker, add Docker files to workspace. Let's try that again. Add Docker files to workspace. There it is at the top. And this is going to go through and ask us what our platform is. I'm just going to say other for now, port 3000. This is going to add in all the Docker files we need. I'm going to come to this Docker file. I'm just going to remove this and put in a more simple Docker file that I've had here. All it's doing is pulling in our build folder, adding in the simple node HTTP server, and creating a container. That's it. So now that we've got this, we can say Docker compose up. Specify the compose file, and it will begin to compose this image here. And then we'll see that right here, there, inside of our images, inside of the Docker panel. So now we can say, tag this image. So we'll go ahead and tag it. This will tag it, and now we can right-click it and say, push it. And this will push it up to Docker Hub. Let's try that one more time. Push. Excellent. So this will push it up to Docker Hub, and from Docker Hub, you can pull it into any cloud provider. Providers like Azure, or even Azure. You can use all three of those. So I've got so much more to show you, but I'm completely out of time. We could literally do this all day. I told you that I've got a resource for you. It's called vscodecandothat.com. Everything that we've gone over here is in little tiny minute or less snippets for you to watch at your leisure. And I'd like to thank Sarah Drasner for helping me put this together. Thank you so much for coming.